Walaikum salam.
How's everyone? Alhamdulillah. It's already 20 days of fasting. Inshallah, we have the last 10 days. So I hope that, we do more ibadah, inshallah. And today we are very fortunate. We have a team of speaker from, we have a team of speaker. One of them is Brother Isa. Another one is Brother Samuel, is an ex-pastor. So inshallah, today they will share with us, number one, Brother Samuel will share his journey from pastor to brother. No, from pastor to Islam. From Christian to Islam. So we'll give him time for him to share his journey. And then if you have any questions after the end of the talk, you are welcome to ask questions. After that, Brother Isa will present his activities from his organization. They have been traveling around the world spreading peace. So he will share more the detail, and also I will like Brother Samuel to tell us about his background. So instead of I read his background, I think I prefer for he himself to share. So without further delay, I would like to invite Brother Samuel to share his journey to Islam.
We apologize to each one of you for being late.
Just a minute, please.
Okay.
You have to put on this.
I apologize when I get this on.
Can I put this on here for you?
Yes.
Number one. One more. It's live, right? Live.
How do I wear
I'll
this?
fix for you. Just a minute. Sorry. Put in your pocket here. Okay. Down. Is it okay for you? Comfortable?
Alhamdulillah. You can hear me? Alhamdulillah. Okay, I'm very happy to be here with you today. And I got a few of your names already. I know there's a Muhammad and a Muhammad. And the rest of the names I will try to remember as we go. But God bless you. My name is Samuel Shropshire. I work with Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation. My son and my assistant is Jesus. He's right here in the front. His name in Arabic is Isa, which means Jesus. So I call him Jesus. And our administrative assistant and administrative director is Nibal Anaim. He's Palestinian living in Jeddah. Isa is Syrian Saudi living in Jeddah. And he's also American. And I'm American, a long time ago British, living in Washington and Jeddah. So thank you for letting us be here with you today. My path to Islam. My mother was a Baptist. Do you know what is Baptist? Yeah, Christian denomination, church. Protestant, there are Protestants and there are Catholics. My mother was a Protestant, she was a Baptist. My father was Baptist. My father died when I was only 3 months old. He was in a plane crash. But before he died, he was in the hospital for 6 months after the plane crash. and he named me Samuel, which is a prophet's name. Samuel is mentioned in Surah 2, Ayah 245 to 247. It's the prophet who anointed Talut, or Saul, to be king. The Jews wanted a king, and they said, we need a rich man to be king. But God chose Talut, and he told Prophet Samuel to make Talut to be king. It's all there in Surah 2. His name is not mentioned in Surah 2, but his name was Samuel, this prophet. So that's where I get my name. The name means God hears. Samuel was a man of prayer. He spent a lot of time in prayer, and God would listen to Samuel on behalf of the Jewish people at that time, the Hebrews. My mother would take me she moved the family after my father died to North Georgia, near Atlanta, about 1 hour from Atlanta. And there was a little town called Jefferson, 1,800 people. So my mother went to the First Baptist Church of Jefferson. Asa, can you turn this phone off for me? To First Baptist Church of Jefferson. And she would make me go every Sunday. Sammy, get out of bed, time to go to church. We'd get a taxi or we would walk to the church. It was about 2 miles away. And she would tell me, Sammy, you got to listen, have to listen. So I would go to Sunday school and then to the morning's church service. And she would after church service, she would go to the library and take books, children's books. They had full color pictures in them. They were stories about the Bible. And the one book she got over and over again was called The God of Abraham. Anyone here named Ibrahim?
Yes.
Okay. The God of Abraham. Abraham's God. And my mother would take me home. We'd sit in the big chair and she would put me in her lap. And she would open the book and start reading to me. She would tell me the story of Abraham. Abraham left his mother and father because they were worshiping idols. They weren't following the one true God. And she would tell me, Sammy, 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 look into my eyes. Look into my eyes. You have to pray to the God of Abraham. There's only one God. My mother told me this. She was a Christian, but she taught me to be a Muslim. She didn't know what was Islam. She didn't know who was Prophet Muhammad. And she didn't know what was Quran. She taught me to pray to the one true God of Abraham. So later I would go to Christian high school. I would go to Christian university. I would go to 3 different Christian graduate schools. And in each place, when they start talking about Trinity, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, I would ask questions. What do you mean? God is chopped into 3 pieces. They say, no, it's not like that. God is one being, but he has 3 different expressions of himself. So I said, what do you mean by expression? 3 people in one. And then some of them would just explain it to me. It's a mystery we can't understand. So I had a hard time accepting Trinity, even as a Christian. There are some Christians who are Unitarian who don't believe in Trinity. After this time, I got involved in civil rights and human rights activities, Christian human rights. I worked with Christian Solidarity International. I had been married in Czechoslovakia. My wife was a Baptist also. And we moved to California. She immigrated to the United States. And there we set up our home. Our daughter was born in Los Angeles. My daughter's name is Jenna. My wife's name is Jenna. It means paradise or heaven. So they're Christian, but they don't know, they haven't yet converted to Islam. Pray for them that they'll understand. And we pray that our family will be united in one faith. But until that time happens, we pray together. We read Quran. My wife's reading Bible. My daughter's reading Quran and Bible. My daughter is studying life of Prophet Muhammad. She's getting books about the Prophet. And it's very interesting to see what God is doing in their lives. I hope soon that they will be Muslim. From California, we eventually moved to Washington, D.C., where I was appointed U.S. President of Christian Solidarity International, a human rights organization based in Zurich, Switzerland. And it was my responsibility in the U.S. to organize members of the U.S. Congress, members of Parliament in Ottawa, Canada, members of Parliament in London, England, to travel with me to meet with foreign heads of state. A number of MPs, members of Parliament, and congressmen would go with me, or they would send their staff with me, and we'd have sometimes large delegation of 10 to 15 people traveling with me, meeting with different people from around the world. We tried to meet with heads of state, like, for instance, Nicolae Ceausescu in Romania. He was a communist leader, dictator. And we had many opportunities to get people out of prison using political persuasion, having the congressman with us. If you want good trade, good relations with the U.S., you have to release these people from prison. And we worked on behalf of Christians, Jews, and Muslims. Romania is 20% Muslim. In the southern part of Romania, the Ottoman Empire had come that far, and most people are Muslim. So this was my work. Then after that, I moved to Annapolis, Maryland, where I got involved in politics. I was the head of the Democratic Party for Annapolis, Maryland. I was the head of the party for 8 years. Then I was elected to the Annapolis City Council. Annapolis is the capital city of Maryland, the state of Maryland. And then from there, I ran for office. I wanted to run for mayor, thinking that if I could be elected mayor of the capital city, I could eventually possibly be governor of Maryland, which was a pretty high honor. Or I could run for Congress or Senate or something else. But God had other plans for me. I had problems in my life. And you know, when you're running for political office, it's like a magnifying glass. People are looking at your life. I had problems with alcohol. And my political enemies knew it. They would call me at home, Sam, come downtown. We're having a big party tonight at Ram's Head Tavern. And it's to honor you. So I got downtown, and there was maybe 15 friends, and they start buying drinks for me. I never bought alcohol for myself. They bought. And they start putting it in front of me. But I was responsible. I picked it up and drank it. 15 mixed Coke and vodka. 15 of them within 3 hours. And by the time they finished with me, I was so drunk I could hardly stand up. I was horrible. I was saying horrible, vulgar things to women and men. I was walking around cursing, swearing. I was a different person when I was drunk. At 11 o'clock at night, they put the last vodka and Coke in front of me. They saw I could hardly walk, that I was in a horrible situation, and I drank it. And then they took me by the hand and up some stairs to the exit, and they said, we have a surprise for you. They opened the door. I walked out. 3 TV cameras pointed at me. And I'm swinging at the cameras. I'm acting. I'm cursing, swearing. And then finally I ran away and jumped in my car and drove off, drove over the curb on the sidewalk. It's a wonder I didn't kill somebody. But there are no friends in politics. And this is what happened to me. And 2 days later, the police show up at my apartment. Someone filed a complaint against me. And the police said, do you remember doing this? Do you remember saying this? And I would say, I can remember a little bit, but I can't remember everything. And the police said, okay. They had me sign the report that they filled out. And then the next day I was arrested and booked and eventually sentenced to 2 days in jail. And of course the TV cameras are watching me go into the jail, and they're watching me come out of the jail. And it's all on the story again, every 30 minutes. For 2 years after that, I couldn't find a job in Annapolis. I tried everything, even being working in a service station, taking money when people bought gas. They told me I was too old, or they would tell me other things, and eventually I gave up looking for a job. I sat there, my house is going away, the bank's repossessing my house. And 1 month before my house was to be repossessed by the bank, Dr. Safi Kaskas came to me. He's a Lebanese American Muslim. And he said, we need you in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. I'd been all over the world, but I'd never been in a Muslim country. And Dr. Safi said, yes, we need you. And I laughed. I said, yeah, you don't know who I am. He says, I know everything about you. We love you. You have something that we can use. You have been educated in the Bible. We're doing a new Quran. And we want you just to come and proofread the English. It's in modern,
New translation of the Quran.
a new translation, but we called it interpretation of the Quran. And it's in contemporary modern American English. And we, every night I'm reading. He said, that's your responsibility, just read. When you see something that's incorrect English, make a note of it and show it to us the next day. So just proofreading. But in order to do this, I had to read the Quran. Within 6 months, I read it probably 20 times. And then I read in the Quran such strange things. Because people in America told me that if you come to Saudi Arabia, somebody's going to cut your throat, they're going to kill you, you're going to have big problems, and we can't reach you to help you, we can't pull you out. So when I arrived in Saudi Arabia, I was very afraid. I was afraid I was going to be kidnapped. I was afraid somebody was going to kill me. But when I arrived in Saudi Arabia, people started hugging me. It was totally different than what I'd been told it would be. People showed love to me. People were inviting me to their homes for coffee, tea, for dinner. I'd go to the supermarket, I'd run into complete strangers, and they would say, where are you from? Because I look different. Saudis are a little bit darker than I. And they'd say, where are you from? And I would say, I'm from the United States. I'm from near Washington, D.C. And they would hug me and say, can you come to our home for dinner? Total strangers. Some of them would ask me, are you Muslim? And I would say, no. And they'd say, that's okay. Come to our home. Be with us. After 6 months, I walked down the street to a mosque called Masjid Taqwa. Taqwa means God consciousness, or to be always aware of God's presence. And it was Maghrib prayer time. I'm standing there knocking on the door. I'm knocking for 10 minutes. I didn't know if I could open the door and go in. Other people were passing me. They were opening the door, walking in. But I was a Christian. I didn't know if Christians could go in the mosque. Finally, Shafiq Zubair, a Rohingya Muslim from Burma, came to the door. And he said to me through an interpreter, may I help you? And I said, yes, my name is Samuel. I'm a Christian from the United States. Is it okay to come inside the mosque? And he, like everyone else I was running into, he reached out, he hugged me, said, Ahlan wa sahlan, welcome, welcome, come in. I went inside the mosque and I sat in the back in some chairs for 3 days. Every time Shafiq gave a call to prayer, I would get up and go to the mosque. And I see men standing, Allahu Akbar, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, bowing, putting their face to the floor, but I didn't understand what was going on. After 3 days, I said to Shafiq, can you teach me to pray like a Muslim? And Shafiq said, of course. So he taught me Al-Fatiha. Do you know Al-Fatiha? You know Al-Fatiha?
No.
Al-Fatiha. First 7 sentences of the Quran. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu. My life was changed. I felt God's presence in that mosque. I felt God's presence among my Muslim brothers and sisters. And people were inviting me to their home. I said to Dr. Sadiq Malki, who was a professor at King Abdulaziz University, can you take me somewhere to say Al-Shahada? He took me to the Islamic Education Foundation. I said Al-Shahada, and he put me in his car and took me immediately to Mecca. When I got to Mecca, to the Haram, I went inside. and I saw the Kaaba for the first time in my life. And I fell on my knees crying. Remembering the words of my mother, Sami, Sami, when you're older, you have to pray to the God of Abraham. There's only one God. And here I was. The mosque where I was knocking on the door, they would eventually build an apartment for me next to the imam. That's where I live now. I'm the only American in Saudi Arabia living in a mosque. I had a friend, Dr. Muhammad Al-Hajj Hussein. He invited me to his home for dinner. I got to his house for dinner. There's 6 sons sitting at the table.
MashaAllah.
MashaAllah, 6 sons. And he didn't have any daughters. But I said to Dr. Muhammad, I said, I have only one child. I have a daughter. But I don't have any sons. So please give me one of yours. I was joking. He said, okay, take Jesus. And Asa is here with me today. He's sitting in the back. He even looks a little bit like Jesus might have looked. So if you told me 10 years ago, when I was running for mayor of Annapolis with the big dream in my mind of being governor or congressman or senator from that state, and people were talking to me seriously about this path, political path, if you had told me then, no, this isn't God's will for you. It's God's will for you to live in Saudi Arabia. You're going to be living in a mosque. You're going to be a Muslim studying Quran, and you're going to have a son named Jesus. Only God can write stories like that. And this is my path to Islam. I'm very happy to be here with you today. After I said Al-Shahada, I did Hajj. I've been to Medina several times. I've prayed even in Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, alhamdulillah. And I've been traveling the world talking about my path to Islam and also trying to figure out that path in a very formal, organized way. So what we've done is organize Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation. Okay. In just a minute, inshallah, we're going to show a brief PowerPoint presentation. Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation. Asa is the co-founder. Jesus is the co-founder. It's Jesus and Samuel. We travel the world speaking in Christian churches, to Jewish groups, to other religious groups, talking about Islam. And of course, when I tell Jesus to stand up and come forward, the Christians, they see Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation on his shirt. And the Christians are looking at each other. Wait, Muslim, Jesus, what's this? They don't know that Jesus is mentioned in the Quran. They don't know that Jesus is highly respected. And Mary, highly respected by Muslims. They don't know that there are 2 books, one named Maryam and one named Imran, which is the family of Mary, and that Jesus is mentioned 25 times in the Quran. They don't know this. So we're here to share with them as much as we can and to be able to invite them to Islam. So our means of doing dawah is one of peacemaking. You can give to me. Inshallah. Okay, we'll be with it in just a second. I have very professional people here. And the message says, hang on while Windows is restarting. The people's reaction to what we're doing, because I'd asked God, what am I supposed to do now? I felt him saying, do what you've been trained to do. Work in human rights, civil rights, work in peacemaking around the world. But now do it in the name of Islam. So we have the name Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation. Our mission, we are Muslim men, women, promoting world peace, human rights, compassionate justice, and religious reconciliation. It means where there's religious fighting going on in the world, we sit down with each other and talk. We don't kill each other. We speak up for innocent men, women, and children, regardless of their faith. If I see a Jew or a Christian or Hindu or Buddhist being persecuted or being illegally detained, we'll fight for them as well. We want to show them that the prophet who went to Medina, he had Medina Declaration. He told the Jews, Christians, Muslims, and atheists who were living there, you're all free, but don't fight each other. Support each other. That was the Medina Declaration dictated by our Prophet Muhammad. We work collaboratively together with interfaith groups and other non-government organizations seeking to be a Muslim voice of peace and reason in the midst of civil unrest and war. Jesus is my co-founder and educator. Nibal Na'im is our director of administration. The first place I went, Burma, I started traveling and educating myself. Myanmar, it's called now. The person who opened the door to me at the mosque and invited me in, his name is Shafiq Zubir. He's Rohingya Muslim, and he told me about his family, how they were persecuted in Burma. So I got on a plane, I went to Burma. Today, the Rohingya Muslims are among the most persecuted Muslims in the world. Many of them are fleeing Myanmar. The Quran says, if you can't live peaceably where you are, the world is big and wide, go somewhere else. So they obeyed. They got on boats. Many of them have come to Malaysia. Some have gone to other countries here in the southeast. Many went to Thailand, Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the United Nations set up refugee camps. This is what it looks like. These people have been living in this camp for 35 years. This is no life. This is not freedom. They can't leave the camp without permission. And this is just 35,000 in one camp, 35,000 in another camp, and 250,000 who are not in a camp walking the streets. Many of them children getting into all kinds of trouble. This is the head of the refugee camp there for the United Nations. I met with families and children while I was there. I took this information back to a big conference in Chicago, Illinois, called the Islamic Society North America Convention. 7,000 religious Muslim leaders from Canada and the United States, and I spoke to them about what was going on, what I saw in Myanmar, and what I saw in Bangladesh. And then, of course, you add to the Syrian refugees today. These are people just like you, walking from Syria to Europe, to Sweden, Germany, walking thousands of miles. They have no other hope except to get there, and hoping that people are going to hand them food on the way because they have nothing, they have no money. The lives are very difficult. There's 60 million refugees in the world today. 95% are Muslim. This is my wife and daughter in Slovakia. They're Christian, but when I told them what I saw in what was going on in Syria, they said, we have to do something. Christians must do something. So we organized a rally in the capital city, Bratislava. Refugees welcome. These are all Catholic Christians saying, Muslims, welcome to Slovakia. The government said no Muslims. The people got in the street and said, Muslims, welcome. I heard about Bosnia-Herzegovina. This is my friend in Bosnia. I went there to visit, to check on what was going on. I met the mayor of Sarajevo and went to Srebrenica. He told me it was the best to see this in order to understand the problems the people were facing. And this is what I found. This is the Srebrenica Holocaust Memorial. Around 1995, Serbs invaded Bosnia and they were killing Muslims. They wanted to make Bosnia a Christian country. The United Nations was protecting thousands of Bosnians in warehouses. They were surrounded by United Nations forces, but then the Serbs started advancing and the United Nations forces were weak. So they put the women and little girls on buses and sent them away. $8,700 men and boys killed only because they were Muslim. Some as young as 14 years old. I went to Palestine and Israel. I knew a lot about Palestine. I was in Palestine as a Christian right after I graduated from university. I wanted to go back. The first time I was there in 1971, I was 21 years old. I went to this Christian hospital. It's between Hebron and Bethlehem. Today, the Christian hospital was used most recently over the past 20 years as a camp. It was used by Christians and Muslims for camp and retreats and spiritual talks. The pastor of the church, Baraka Presbyterian Church, opened the newspaper one day and he read, Baraka Hospital sold to a settlement, a Jewish settlement. And he said, what's this about? He started asking questions. Yeah. They gave the deed. The Israeli government, the occupiers, gave the deed to an illegal settlement group. While I was here visiting this project, we're trying to get this hospital property back into the proper hands, I visited the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. They're in the same location. And I wore for the first time our peace shirt, which Asa has on today. It says on the top in Hebrew, peace, shalom in the middle, salam, Arabic, peace, and English, peace. We wear these shirts in the Middle East as peacemakers to encourage people to talk and sit down. Shalom, salam. There's so many words that are the same in Arabic and Hebrew. Ar-Rahman, Elohim, God the most merciful, the distributor of mercy. It's the same in Hebrew. If we can all sit down and talk with each other and be fair before God, then much of the problems in Palestine will end. This is a Jewish peace activist working on behalf of Palestinians. He died about 3 months ago. He was in his 90s. I was able to meet with him. We have a legal team in Washington, D.C., working on behalf of the Baraka properties, trying to get them back into the church's hands. We use television, radio, newspapers to publicize the problems faced by Muslims today. We work interfaith. This is the Quran I went to work on in Saudi Arabia. The Interfaith Quran. Not only did I proofread the English, I decided when I was there, let's cross-reference it with the Old and New Testaments of the Bible, because I was seeing so many things that were alike. And this would encourage Jews and Christians to read the Quran and to see the commonalities. And that's done. Now it's in its third printing and being distributed widely in the United States. And we're hoping to have it translated into Spanish, Italian, and other languages. There was a huge bombing or fight, a terrorist attack in Paris with guns. They came in, they shot millions, probably 150 people in a nightclub, killed people. There was no way for the people to get out except by going through the front door, and as they came toward the front door, they shot more and more and more. I went to the French embassy in Washington, D.C. and offered a letter of condolence from Muslims around the world. And then we organized a rally in front of the White House in Washington, D.C. I thought maybe 20, 30 people would show up. More than 2,000 people showed up. Christians, Jews, Muslims, other faiths came to support the rally and to say, end the fighting, killing. We work through interfaith organizations such as the Interfaith Center in Vienna, Austria. It was funded by Saudi Arabia. And we do interfaith work around the world, including in Saudi Arabia. And we have, are we connected to internet here? Is it already connected?
Just 1 minute.
I have two short videos I want to play for you, and then we're going to have tell you about a program we're working on, WWPD, and then we'll have questions and answers. This should take just a second. I'm sorry, I'm diabetic and I need water. If I could get some water. My mouth is getting dry.
And we are traveling.
And we're traveling. We have two excuses not to be able to drink water right now. So
Have a seat for a minute, Sam.
I'm going to sit down for a second until they get the internet connected. You can play this. This is in Hiroshima, Japan, about 11 months ago. It's coming. No. Okay. Enlarge. Alhamdulillah.
Higher sound. Volume, please.
Turn it all the way up. Thank you, Abdul Razak, who is our PR manager.
You have the speaker, brother? No.
Okay.
Is the speaker on, brother?
Not connected to the speaker.
It's okay. You'll be able to see. Hiroshima, Japan. August 6, 1945. 60 years ago, 70 years ago. The end of World War II. The U.S. dropped the first atomic bomb in history. The first weapon of mass destruction dropped by the United States. The small atomic bomb killed more than 140,000 innocent citizens. 70,000 immediately, and another 70,000 died over the next 4 to 5 months. Last summer, I took a team of Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation to Hiroshima. We pledged our support to end nuclear weapons, to support the ban of nuclear weapons all over the world. We called for an end of nuclear weapons because they kill innocent men, women, and children. They destroy crops and animals. They destroy houses of worship. Even Muslims, we're not permitted to destroy a church or a Buddhist temple or a Jewish synagogue. We can't do it. It's illegal. Please.
Can I put your mic on the thing?
Yeah. I didn't think of that. I brought him to think for me.
Perfect.
Take this too. And back it up just to the middle. This may or may not work. Let's just go with the flow.
This is working, brother? Brother, are these working?
It's all right. We bowed and prayed at ground zero where the bomb was dropped. And we prayed for an end of nuclear weapons.
Just make higher.
We prayed for an end of nuclear weapons. This was the purpose for being there. All Muslims should be against nuclear weapons and any weapon of mass destruction. No Muslim state should own nuclear weapons or have the ability to make nuclear weapons, because this is against the principles of God. Let's go to the next video. Stay up here. Make sure it doesn't show something crazy. Go back to the PowerPoint presentation. I've been to Iraq 2 times in the last 8 months. We're organizing an MVPR, Muslim Voice of Peace Reconciliation team in Iraq, to help rebuild 3 schools that were destroyed by fighting in Iraq. And our message to the world is, if you dropped 1 bomb, fired 1 bullet in Iraq, you should be there helping to rebuild the country. We need to help the children, women. This is a member of the Iraqi parliament standing with me. We walked into a school. This is what we found: pieces of mortar rounds that were fired at the school, that destroyed the school, bombed the school. Let's not wait for the sound. It's okay. Anybody? This is a typical school in Iraq today. This is in Beji, small city of about maybe 60,000 people. I visited several schools. This is one. I said, stop the car. I want to get out and go inside. They told me it's too dangerous. I said, no, go with me. Show me where to step. This is what I found. I tried to bring these pieces of weapons that were exploded back with me to Jeddah, and they were taken away from me at the airport for good reason, I guess. But I wanted people to see what I found inside the school. Okay? This is the mayor of Beji. So along with this member of the Iraqi parliament, we hope to go to Washington, D.C. the middle of June. Nibal, Asa, and I. And we're going to hold meetings on Capitol Hill, meeting with congressmen, meeting with other NGOs, and trying to do something to get at least 3 schools rebuilt, to find the money for that. Pray for this. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. And I'll take it from there. Okay. We're working on a program now that will eventually be put on our website. We ask 110 questions. These are questions dealing with social causes. What would the Prophet Muhammad do? It's called WWPD. What would the Prophet do to his employees? How would he treat his employees? These are quotes from people who work. This is a quote from someone who worked for him. I served the Prophet for 10 years and he never said oof to me. It was just an expression of disgust. He would never say to me, why did you do so or so? Why didn't you do it the other way? You know, we all have bosses like that. Alhamdulillah. What would the Prophet do if someone urinated in a mosque? This happened in Medina. Somebody came to the Prophet and said, that man over there in the corner, he's urinating. And the Prophet's response, he said, wait until the man is done, and when he's done, we'll patiently talk with him to not repeat it again. What would happen if somebody came here and urinated in the office? You know, I find it very hard to be patient with someone like that. It happened when I was in Bosnia. Somebody urinated in a mosque. There was a big uproar. What would the Prophet do if someone tortured him? He would pray to God and he'd bear it patiently. What would the Prophet do if he did not like what was served to him for dinner? Have you ever had somebody put food in front of you and you taste not your thing? He would just be very kind, set it aside, and eat what he could. Okay, what would the Prophet Muhammad do if there was no food to eat? He'd either fast the day, or he would find some method to make himself feel less hungry. What would the Prophet Muhammad do? How would he treat his friends? He made sure that everyone felt they were his closest friend. He had respect for everyone. That's Muslims and non-Muslims alike. What would the Prophet Muhammad do if someone attacked him or abused him? Remember when he was walking through the village of Taif? He was running from Mecca. He had enemies in Mecca, the people who were making idols. They hated him. There was a big business making idols. So he hurt their business. And they were chasing him out of Mecca. He ran toward a village on a mountain called Taif. When he got to Taif, the people came out of their homes. They started throwing rocks at him. Their parents were shouting, there's Muhammad, go get him, go get him. They were sending the children with bags of rocks. They were throwing rocks. They were screaming, they were cursing at the Prophet. And the Prophet, did he ever pick up a rock and throw it back? No. Did he ever curse anyone who cursed him? No. He was a man of great compassion, a man of great mercy. And we need to be like that. The best means of dawah today is our behavior. We need to learn how to talk. That's what this center is for. What to say, what not to say. This is all very, very important. But even more important than talking is our behavior. Being friendly, being kind, smiling at strangers, seeing someone in need, trying to help them fulfill that need. This is important. The average person doesn't care what we think about Islam today until they know that we care about them personally. Um, what would the prophet do? If people rejected his message, well, then we discuss this, threw stones at him. What would the prophet do if he found an animal in distress? He would try to find the owner. You need to take some of the burden off that camel. I love camels. You don't want to overburden them. You need to feed them properly. You need to give them good water. He cared about animals. He cared about cats. Remember what he said to the prostitute, a lady. This lady, she took her shoe off, filled it with water, and gave water to a dog. And the prophet said, that lady's going to be in paradise. What did he say about the lady who had a cat? She locked it in a room at her home. The cat couldn't get out to eat. Said the lady's going to be in hell. What would the prophet do when he had a huge army and plenty of power? He was walking from Medina. He didn't know what to expect when he got to Mecca. He's armed. He thought that they would be attacked. They wanted to go and pray to Allah at the Kaaba. He was met by a contingent of people from Mecca. They knew he was coming. They went out to meet him. And the prophet said to them, correct me if I'm wrong, Nibal. He said, what kind of man do you think I am? And the people responded, you're a good man. He turned around to his soldiers and told them to put down their weapons. They walked into Mecca, and the people cheered and welcomed him. He made peace with his enemies. It says in the Quran, if your enemy says peace, don't try to... you have to declare peace.
So
That's a hadith.
Yeah, when he won the victory of opening Mecca, and they were hostages basically because they lost. So they assumed a reaction from him because they treated them badly. They attacked the men, the women, the children, raped, etc. So he asked them, what would you think I'm going to do with you? ما تظنون أني فاعل بكم. So they said, أخ كريم وابن أخ كريم. You are a very kind and generous brother, and the son of a kind and generous brother. He said, اذهبوا فأنتم الطلقاء. Go, you're not hostages, you're free.
So our prophet was a man of great mercy. He was known for mercy. He wasn't known for war and anger and killing. And today, anyone who interprets the prophet as being a warrior, as a killer, as a murderer, as a terrorist, sometimes it's said by non-believers about Muslims, but sometimes Muslims act that way. There are a few crazy people in the world. I think 1% of every religious group is insane. Christians, Jews, Muslims, Hindus, Buddhists. Buddhists are supposed to be peace-loving people. Look what they're doing in Myanmar. Just not all of them, but a handful of them. And this handful of terrorists, wherever they are, no matter what religion they are, they're causing great harm to people of faith, and Muslims in particular. More Muslims are dying at the hand of Muslims today than from any other terrorist group. Okay, I'm going to end it here. I'll leave this on the screen. But do you have any questions about what Muslim Voice for Peace and Reconciliation is doing? Yes, Brother Muhammad. Or Ibrahim. Is it Ibrahim?
No.
Abdul Rahman. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair.
Before this, I already listened to your story on YouTube. It's on your channel too. Alhamdulillah. I feel happy for that, and I have a feeling happy when I listened to your presentation just now. Just one question.
Please.
After you reverted to Islam, what's your reaction within your families? Jazakallah khair.
Okay. My wife's immediate reaction was anger. She's still angry today, 6.5 years later, not for the same reason. She said, I didn't marry a Muslim, I married a Christian. She was shocked, she was upset. Later on, we began to pray together. I go there every 6 months or so, spend 2 or 3 weeks with my wife and daughter. They live in northern Slovakia near Poland. And there's a big anti-Muslim movement in Slovakia now. And they're afraid that if they're too close to me and identify too close to me, that they're going to be attacked. So, but I still go. And I stand with them. I love them. I care about them. And I want to see them as often as possible. My wife went to her pastor, her priest, 2 months ago, and she said, I don't like the fact that Sam is a Muslim, but he's a much better husband as a Muslim than he ever was as a Christian. Okay? Alhamdulillah. So, I'm very grateful for that. I need to be able to support my family better financially, do other things which I'm trying to do. Any other questions? Thank you, Abdurrahman. I'm going to turn a chair around here and sit down. We've been going for 3 weeks straight, sometimes speaking 2 or 3 times a day, and I'm running out of strength. I'm 71 years old and starting a new career with the help of Jesus and Nibal and Abdul Razak. Yeah, this is Abdul Razak here. He's our chief computer operator. Yes, sister.
Just now you were sharing a story about the place where you visit in Palestine or in Bethlehem. Can you share more what's actually current progress?
In Bethlehem, I went to visit a Christian pastor there. I had met him in 1971, Pastor George. He's the Baraka Presbyterian Church. It means Blessings Presbyterian Church. So I went to visit them, and they welcomed me. They put me in their home. I stayed with them. I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner with them every day. And they would take me to see certain things. They even took me to Al-Aqsa Mosque to pray. But every day at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, Pastor George would look at me or his wife or his son, Danny. He's also a pastor, Pastor Danny. They would say, they would take turns. Sammy, you have to come back to Jesus. I said, brother, I love Jesus Christ, the Messiah, today more than it ever before in my life. As a Muslim, we're commanded to love Jesus Christ, the Messiah. We read about him in the Quran, the miracles that he did with the permission of God. Great miracles, including raising the dead back to life again. He healed people of leprosy. He cured people of sinful activities. He delivered them. As he did me. As I was delivered by God the minute I walked out of that bar. I haven't had another drop of alcohol since 11 o'clock, May 14, 2009. Just a little over 10 years ago. Mashallah, I walked out of there and I said, oh God, in my drunken, stupid stupor, God, please deliver me from this and forgive me for the embarrassment I've caused you. I never drank again. It's not so easy for some people. But with the help of my family and friends in Annapolis, some Christians who surrounded me, I never touched alcohol again. This was the effect Jesus, the Messiah, and the Christ had on people's lives. I told Pastor George and Pastor Danny, I said, you know, I love Jesus. So don't tell me to return to Jesus. I never left Jesus. I may have a different perspective. I don't think he's God, but he's still a miracle worker, and he's called the Christ and the Messiah of God in the Quran. He was born of the Virgin Mary. And they said, oh no, you're talking about a different Jesus. I said, how many Jesuses were born of virgins, called Christ and Messiah, were sent of God? They're called prophets. Christians believe he was a prophet as well as God. I said, I love him so much. I said, even Muslims, they name their kids Jesus, like Jesus here today. After about a week, they stopped begging me to come to Jesus. They understood how much I love Jesus. Pastor George went to his church office, and he's coming out of the office and he's crying. And I said, Pastor George, what's wrong? He said, I saw your website. And I'm thinking, oh my, you're angry with me, something I wrote. No. He said, I've never seen anyone who loves, any Muslims who love Jesus as much as you, love Jesus as much as you do, and love Christians. You know? We have to realize there's a verse in Surah 3, Ayah 110. And in English, it says, there are amongst the Christians, the people of the book, the Christians and Jews, there are those who are true to the faith. I got to that verse in the translation and I wrote it down, and I said to Dr. Safi, Dr. Sadiq and others, I said, what does this mean? And they said, it's talking about you and other people like you. People in Saudi Arabia ask me, when did you become Muslim? I have to tell them it started when I was 3 or 4 years old with my mother telling me about the God of Abraham. There are some Christians and Jews who are true to the faith. They have a personal relationship with Allah. Allah loves them. They do good works. And we have to recognize that. So don't write off every Christian as a bigot, hateful person who's against Allah. But they don't understand what is Islam. Now, how are they going to understand what is Islam? Through our behavior. Just like I understood it through the behavior I met of people in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. So it's our behavior that will open their eyes and their ears to the Quran, to the message of the Prophet. Yes?
Back to the question of sister about Palestine. Just like Malaysia is a multi-religion country, in Palestine, since many, many centuries, people are Muslim and Christian. My mother was born in, my mother was from Jaffa, father's from Gaza. They tell me sometimes about Christian neighbors. They're friends, they're neighbors, they eat together. Muslims go to pray Jummah, Christians go to pray Sunday church. Yeah. So there's this mix. But the Israeli occupation, as he explained, it's a land issue. They don't care if they're a Muslim or a Christian. It's Jewish settlement in either way. So this was an example of a church that was taken by Jewish settlements. And he's planning a trip to Palestine next summer, in a month or two, right?
With Nibal.
The case is still ongoing up until today.
Which case?
The case that you guys are working right now.
The church
Yeah.
property in Bethlehem, yes, it's still ongoing. We may never get that church property back, but we're suing the U.S. government. It's illegal for Americans to support projects in foreign countries that are against U.S. foreign policy. So far, it's against U.S. foreign policy that illegal settlements are being built by the state of Israel on the West Bank and of the occupied West Bank of Palestine. So we're suing the U.S. government to stop the transfer of funds to Israel, money that's going to build illegal settlements and to purchase guns to protect those settlements. The illegal settlers in those settlements, you know, they did genetic testing. The Palestinians are closer to the original Jews through genetic testing than are the people living in these illegal occupied camps. So God help us. We're trying to do everything. There are a lot of Jews helping us. Jewish Voice for Peace, we work with them. They produce some of the best videos talking about the history of Palestine, the occupation, and the hardships it's caused for Palestinians. It's done by Jews. The main people supporting Zionism in the United States are conservative evangelical Christians, and they don't realize that while they're doing this, they're also persecuting Christians in Palestine, like Baraka Presbyterian Church. So we're trying to bring all of this out into the open. And we hope with Nibal's help and others will go to Gaza. I haven't been to Gaza yet. Nibal is from Gaza, his family. And we hope to go to pray again at Al-Aqsa. And we'll meet with Jewish people who are pro-Palestinian. Who are not Zionists. A lot of Jews are anti-Zionists. Any other questions?
Okay, thank you very much. By this, we end the session. Yeah, would you like to add anything, Isa?
Yes, the website.
Come, Jesus. This is Abdul Razak, my technician, who travels with us.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Isa Al-Hadi Hussein, or as Sam mentioned earlier, Jesus. It's glad to meet all of you, alhamdulillah. I would like to just mention about the website. Please visit our website, www.mvpr.org.
Write this down.
Give him the mic.
He has.
Yeah.
No, this one. For the recording.
We
Okay.
didn't know there was a mic there.
Okay, so we will have, if you guys can visit us at mvpr.org, please do visit us. And over there's a beautiful button, donate. Please click on it if you feel like you can donate anything, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. It was our pleasure meeting you, all of you. And we just came actually from Australia, and before that we were in New Zealand, and we went to Christchurch. This was our main stop, and mashallah, it was very beautiful to see all these brothers and sisters in Christchurch. After the tragedy, what happened, they stood strong, they stood united, they stood all together. We all went to support them and to help them and to be united with them. But honestly, they were, mashallah, they were very strong, they were very united, alhamdulillah, and they encouraged us, alhamdulillah. So it was very powerful what happened in Christchurch, and especially also what the Prime Minister also did, Jacinda Ardern, when the head of state is the role model for the whole nation, when she did something positive, many of the citizens did something very, very beautiful. If you go to Linwood Mosque or Noor Mosque, where we went and we gave lectures there, mashallah, you'll see roses and flowers and posters outside of the mosque mentioning good things about Islam and giving gifts to Muslims. So it was very exciting to see that, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, we think she's a great role model to the entire world, to other leaders. We have other role models like Angela Merkel in Germany. She's doing great things for Muslims. She welcomed 1 million Muslims into Germany from the Middle East. But Asa wanted to mention the website. I think it's on the screen behind me now. www.mvpr.org. That's the website. That's where you can keep up to date with us. That's where educational materials within another 4 to 6 months will be posted there to train people on peacemaking, inshallah. And you can also click on the donate button We're a small organization. We only get a few $100s a month through the donate button. If you can contribute $1, if we can figure out a way to get people around the world to just give $1 a month or more, if you can, then we'll be able to support ourselves and expand our outreach. One last question before we walk out the door. I'm sorry my thinking is not so clear today. This is our last meeting of I don't know how many daily throughout New Zealand, beginning at University of Auckland, down through New Zealand, throughout Australia, some meetings as many as 2,000 people or more. And but we're most interested in being here with Dawa groups and activists like you who are sharing the good news of Islam in the streets. And I would just close with one thing today.
We will have one woman.
Okay.
Asking this question.
Okay. Can you read the question?
The letter is like that. How does your father do that to make you he feel more confident to Allah? How do you know Allah bless you? I was born Muslim, but I feel Allah doesn't bless me.
Okay. This is a good question. Thank you for being honest. Unless we can express what's in our hearts, sometimes we feel uncertain and feel afraid. The minute I discovered I was Muslim, not everything was black and white to me. Not everything was clear. Sometimes we have doubts. Even Muslims who've been born Muslims and who've been Muslims all their lives have doubts.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have doubts. It's okay to have doubts. But I can tell you, as I've gotten older, the test of faith, this is where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. This is where reality comes in. I'm 71. I may live another 10 years. My mother lived to 95. I have a hard time thinking I'll ever live that long. If that's the case, then I've got 24 more years to go. No longer than that. Math isn't so good when you're 71 either. But, but I may be dead in 5 minutes. I keep going to the doctor. I said, I'm 71. My grandparents died when, all of them. My mother's father and mother, and my father's mother and father, they all died when they were 65 of heart attacks. My mother, she had a defibrillator. Our problem is not so much heart, but low blood pressure. Many people have high blood pressure. We have low blood pressure. Shropshire's just run out of energy, fall over. So my mother had a defibrillator installed next to her heart. And whenever her heart would slow down to a certain beat, the battery would turn on and speed up her heart. Sometimes my mother would call me and she'd say, Sammy, I just feel so tired. I don't feel like talking anymore. The next day she got the battery changed. She'd call me and I couldn't get her off the phone. She'd talk for hours. Right now I think I'm slowing down. But maybe it's normal after speaking several times a day for 3 weeks. But I got Jesus in Nepal. Doubts as a Muslim. We live in a world where wrong seems right. Everything around us. We live in a world where the chief religion is not Islam or Christianity or Judaism or Hinduism or Buddhism. The chief religion today is materialism. People worship in shopping malls because they believe in their hearts the one who dies with the most stuff wins. The biggest house, the most cars, the latest iPhone, the latest this, the latest that, the latest fashion, the latest cosmetics for the ladies, God help us. This is not where it's at. The Quran, the Bible remind us over and over and over again. Reading Moses, it says Moses, he chose rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season, because he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. In other words, he knew that he would be rewarded in heaven. That this isn't it. This is temporary. The Quran says this is a temporary illusion, what we're experiencing now. It's not it. Materialism today, the religion of materialism, is destroying Muslim families. It's destroying families internationally. They're getting in debt. It's so easy to get in debt in America or in other places now because they give you a little piece of plastic from the bank, credit card. So if you've got a 3,500 square foot home, you have to fill it up with stuff. You want to buy stuff, just take the plastic card and buy something. So easy. And we get in debt over our heads. We can't pay it. Mother and father in the United States, both working 40 hours a week to try to pay all the bills. It wasn't like that in 1954. It was one person working 40 hours a week, supporting a wife and five or six kids. So, television, radio, movies, it's all preaching a gospel of materialism. That's why so many people are unhappy today. You walk to people on the street, most of them are materialist. They don't even realize they've been hooked. Materialism destroying our families, divorce rate going sky high. Materialism destroying the environment. We buy stuff. In America, we distribute 300 billion plastic bags a year to put stuff in at the supermarkets so people can be happy. And half the stuff they're putting in the plastic bag is wrapped in plastic. We're destroying the earth. Global warming caused by humans. Overproduction. God help us to be environmentalist activists, to be peacemaking activists, and to be activists in calling people to Islam. What a great, great honor is ours to call people to an eternal faith in the one true God of Abraham and Isaac and Musa and Noah and all the other prophets, Isa and the prophet Muhammad. They had the Old Testament and the New Testament. They don't have the original manuscripts anymore. They've been lost. But we have the Quran. We have the final testament of God. They have Old Testament, New Testament. We have the final testament through our prophet Muhammad, who was a peacemaker and a mercy to mankind. As I said before, it's important to know what to say when talking to other people about Islam. It's important to be trained. It's even more important to behave like a Muslim should, to behave like our prophet, and to attract people to us and to our faith through our actions. Thank you so much today, dear brother, for letting us be here with you. We appreciate the work that you're doing here in the Dawah Center, and we're very grateful for you. We pray that we can be a blessing to you. We need your help and your guidance and your training for us. May God honor you and reward you all as you seek His people who are still out there and haven't yet come. And keep in mind, Jews and Christians, some of them are true to the faith. They don't know what is Islam. It's up to us to explain it to them. God bless you.
In relation to the last question, I would like to add an answer. So regarding Samuel's father, his father died when Samuel was 3 months old. Samuel's father was a pilot, and he died in a plane crash 71 years ago. So he can't answer the first part of the question because his father was dead, at least when he became Muslim. But the second part of the question, sometimes I feel I'm not blessed by Allah. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was narrated to have said in an authentic hadith, sahih, عجبا لأمر المؤمن. The status of a true believer is always strange. إن أمره كله له خير. His situation in life is always good for him. إن أصابه خير شكر فكان خيرا له. If something good happens for the true believer, the mu'min, it's good for him because he will be thankful. So it's good for him. وإن أصابته ضراء صبر فكان خيرا له. If something bad or evil happens to him, he will be patient. He will tolerate it patiently, which is also good for him. In the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ. Always seek assistance from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by praying, by patience, and salah, by praying. And this is the high level of patience. وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. They always keep advising themselves, tawsiyah, tawasaw, with the truth, al-haq, and al-sabr, patience. What is barakah? When you say sometimes I feel I'm not blessed, as written in the question which the brother read from the paper. What is barakah in the first place? What is the person asked the question, what is your understanding of barakah? How would you define the meaning of barakah? If you are enjoying good health, you thank Allah for this barakah. If you understand the meaning of the dua when you wake up, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us, Razaq, dua al-istiqab. Alhamdulillah, alladhi ahyana. Alhamdulillah, alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. We thank Allah praisingly, we praise Him thankfully, who gave us life after death. In Islam, sleeping is a small death. Yeah? That's why we say this dua when we wake up. Wa ilayhi nushur. And to Him we are returning, resurrection, and nushur. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'dama amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Alhamdulillah alladhi afana fi ajsadina. All praise due to Allah, thankfully. Alhamdulillah. Afana fi ajsadina. He gave us good health. We are enjoying good health in our bodies. Afana fi ajsadina. Wa radda alayna arwahana. And He returned to us our souls. Wa adhina lana bi dhikri. And He gave us permission for remembrance, dhikr, during the day. Yeah? So if you enjoy this in the morning, you are in barakah. When we visited the Christchurch brothers and sisters, victims in the Jum'ah prayer shooting 2-3 months ago in Christchurch City in New Zealand, we visited some of them who are still in hospital because of the shooting behind their back when they were in Salat Jum'ah. One of them was a Malaysian brother. We visited him in a hospital. Downstairs in another room, the president of the second mosque, Linwood Islamic Center, we visited him in the same hospital. The Malaysian brother got his wheelchair and he followed us 15 minutes later. Yeah? Some of them were orphans. We visited them at home. And we saw some of them in the mosque at Taraweeh, in both mosques that had the shooting. An-Nur Mosque in Christchurch City, New Zealand, and Linwood Islamic Center. Some of them were widows because their husbands were praying Jum'ah when the shooting happened. There was one Iraqi engineer and businessman in Emirates, but he lives in Christchurch. He happened to be on vacation from Emirates. He's Iraqi, but he works as a civil engineer in Emirates. He happened to be in Christchurch in that mosque during the shooting, and he was injured. He was shot, 2 shots from the back, attacking his kidney, his liver, his whatever. Yeah. He asked his wife to gather the widows, because widows in Islam need to wait for a month and 10 days before seeing a government. But we wanted to show them, to comfort them and show them condolences. So they thankfully gathered 5 or 6 widows and their orphans. We gave them some dua and we gave them some gifts. Yeah. Is it barakah that you feel you were not there? Those who died and they are martyrs now in Jannah, shuhada, do they now in Jannah feel they are in barakah, that they are no longer alive, but they won Allah's luck that they were shot? Now this is what Prophet Muhammad teaches us, that we look at them as martyrs, shuhada. If you have any education, you thank Allah because it is barakah. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا is the verse in the Quran where Allah instructed Prophet Muhammad to seek more knowledge. Yeah? There's no verse in the Quran, the scholars say, ulama, وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي مَالًا. No, Allah did not tell Prophet Muhammad, ask for more money. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عُمْرًا. Oh Allah, increase my age. No, there's no verse like that. The only thing in the Quran Allah instructs Prophet Muhammad to seek more of is knowledge. وَقُلْ رَبِّ زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. If you have any knowledge in Islam, in Quran, in accounting, programming, medicine, engineering, whatever your specialization, this is also barakah Allah gave your brain that others don't have. You saw the pictures of Iraq and Syria and Rohingya and other places. Now our upcoming project for Iraq is an orphanage school, maybe 2, maybe 3 inshallah. Because when he visited Iraq last month, he saw children on the sides of the road begging for money with no parents. He saw one Rohingya child approaching him for sex, astaghfirullah, because they have no direction, no schooling. If we are not in these places, we are blessed. We went to school, we got some education. So if it's your health, if it's your education or degree, if it's your knowledge of Quran or Arabic language or Islam, if it's the ability to stand up in the morning and start a good day, if it's your ability to walk and talk, not a wheelchair, all of these are barakah in your body, in your knowledge, in your health, in your heart, in your brain. Okay? Jazakumullah khairan. By this we end. Thank you, brother.
Let me
Thank
make
you very much.
one comment.
Yes.
In regards to this, you don't feel God's blessing. I woke up this morning with this ringing in my ears. It's an old song I sang as a child. My mother taught it to me. When upon life's billows means the rugged sea, you are tempest-tossed. When you are discouraged, thinking all is lost, count your many blessings. Count your many blessings, name them one by one, and it will surprise you what our God has done. Count your blessings, name them one by one. Count your many blessings, see what God has done. Sometimes I don't feel so blessed being apart from my wife and daughter. But then I start thinking about what God has given me. And now even more through Islam. And I feel so happy. So God bless you all. Thank you for letting me be here with you today. Count your blessings to see what God has done. Yeah, could we get a group picture? We'd like to have a picture with you today.
Before that.
Before that? Our brother here.
Alhamdulillah, I'd like to take opportunity to thank our brother Samuel as well as his team like Ali, Isa, and
You cannot forget Jesus.
yeah,
Nibal.
thank you so much for coming here and thank you so much for your sharing.
And
Raza,
Abdul Razak.
Abdul Raza, okay,
And
Abdul,
Ubadah.
okay.
And Arbada in the back corner. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you so much for your sharing and just a little bit of information for the participant here that our program will end shortly because all of them they have to rush to the airport, they have to travel to somewhere else. And for your information, we still have program after this. Okay, we have a talk about atheists by Ustad Muhammad Amin, and it's a very interesting one. So for those who have time, stay back with us. And also we have iftar tonight, and welcome everyone to join us for the iftar. So we have talk, iftar, and also of course we have tarawih tonight, inshallah. So for those who are free and available, please come and join us. Okay. Now before we go, let's have a group photo. I think what I will do is all of you just remain here, sit here. Maybe we just take from this side.
You.
All right.
We need you in the picture too.
But before that, I have something for 3 of you.
Sam.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
Alhamdulillah.
And for you, can we take a photo here?
Yes.
Take a look here. 1, 2, 3. Again. 1, 2, 3.